Yeah, thanks, Nick, and thank you, Black Harvest Film Festival. Thank you to everyone for coming out. My name is Devin Powell. I'm the writer, director, producer, editor, and yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I'm sure much more. Like you're not giving yourself enough credit for it. Tackling the kind of, I don't know, the cultural differences, but also the little bit of generational differences between the two characters. Tackling the kind of African continental versus Black American, this argument and stuff. It's a big argument to try to tackle for this film. What made you decide to do this?
Yeah, I want to clarify. The film that I wrote and directed is called "Where Are You From?" So it was the first film with the two little boys watching films. So yeah, it comes from a personal experience. When I was younger, we had these kids travel from South Africa to North Carolina, where I'm from, Charlotte, and it was through our church program. And they would stay with us, for the summer times, and then they started going to school with us. And then they started going to college, and they watched all these weird international films, and like we grew up during the streaming era, and they just used to show me all these films, all my big brothers, and that's kind of how I got into film and being an artist. And yeah, I mean, it was on my heart just that we grew up together, and I loved them, and I hadn't seen them for a while, and just that connection I thought was special for my origin story as an artist.
So would you say that the character who's the Sharif, the international exchange student, is kind of like, would you say he's inspired from a culmination of seeing these students and those experiences?
For sure. Sharif, played by Abdul Amin, he did amazing. This is a Senegalese character. The kids that I grew up with was South African. I actually had a South African actor that I was going to work with for this film, but he had to pull out last minute, and he had to go back home for a ceremony or a tradition. So I worked with Abdul Amin after I did this Q&A for this film, Benel and Adama. I don't know if you've seen it, Nick. But yeah, it's a tremendous film, Benel and Adama. I did a Q&A, and I met Abdul, and yeah, I mean, I forgot the question, sorry.
Well, I think you answered it perfectly. There are these moments when, remind me the kid's name as a character?
The kid, Sharif is Abdul Amin, and then George is Warren Whitaker.
What was it like to work with a young actor?
It was amazing. Both of these kids, I mean, Abdul is my age. Warren is like 11 or so. But yeah, I mean, both of them were consummate professionals. They showed up every day. They knew their lines, and they both contributed to it. I think at the beginning we were all kind of shy. I'm kind of a shy person, so I feel like that might have carried over to the culture on set. But eventually, we stretched. We kicked it out. We got loose, and they started to open up, and I encouraged them to improvise and everything, and they started to improvise. Like one of the lines in the film, Abdul said, Africa to the world, and he improvised that. So, it's a blessing to work with them, and I'm grateful that they contributed their own thing to it, and took the characters and ran with them.
Devin didn't shoot digitally, it was all on film, which I can imagine that kind of improv is hard because, time is money when you're rolling through film. Can you explain the decisions behind shooting on 16 millimeter and maybe some of the difficulties and how it turned into a wonderful look and patina for the film?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. I mean, I just love film. I feel like it's tangible, analog film. I shoot on a film camera. I just broke it. But yeah, I mean, I love film, and I love old films, films from the 50s. I love Satyajit Ray, Ingmar Bergman, Fellini, all these guys from back in the day. And, I love to capture Black life and, the diaspora on film, just because I feel like it's so tangible and so real.
Whenever Sharif kind of clicks the remote and then you watch one of these films, there's a version of it that is his. Can you decide, and I think it's Mandavi and Cold War, right? What was the decision to try to inflect Sharif's version of these films? And Mandavi and Cold War are well-known films. Can you explain that creative decision?
Yeah, I mean, both of these films are films that I love. I saw them in college, so Mandabi was kind of my introduction to African cinema through watching the great Usman Sembene's work, and yeah, really just thinking about it, trying to think about what my brothers were going through when they first got to America. Maybe how uncomfortable they felt, and they just used these films as a way to try to escape and try to I don't know, think of their homeland, just think of, they were just really open. They watched films from Spain, from Italy, from all over. So I think that's what I was trying to depict with these films, Mandabi, kind of him trying to imagine himself back home, trying to get that feeling, that taste, the food. And then Cold War, that was a nice way for me to, give Sharif, love interest, give him like dimensions with his life. And Cold War is just a fantastic film. My mother, she has Polish ancestry, and I feel like both of these films make up pieces of who I am, African, and this Polish film as well. So yeah, both of these films are classics, and I love them. Yeah.
It was a really awesome creative decision. It was almost as if we were looking at kind of inside Sharif's brain as he was watching the films.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Can you explain? I was curious about the art under the TV on the wall right in front of them. Can you what was that all about? Are there? I didn't get to see it. It was on screen for such a short amount of time. But are there any Easter eggs or hidden things that are featured in that?
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to my roommate, Amiel Gibson. That's all her art. She's a fantastic artist as well, filmmaker, and we shot in our house. So I wanted to put up some art over it, but I loved her art, and 'cause it is a little adult, kind of mature, but yeah, I mean, I hope it fit in, and yeah, that's kind of just what we had in the house.
It definitely fit in. It was cool, but it also made the house feel very unique and interesting. It was awesome. I'd love to take this moment now to ask any of you guys if you guys